On this episode of This is Game Boy, no, it's not the Dragonheart episode.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode, a full episode of This is Game Boy. With me, as always, I have Moelle.
Yeah, hello.
And today we have a very, very special guest with us, whom is our awesome and wonderful producer, SprintingLegs.
Hello.
Yeah. Legs has a voice.
Don't tell anybody. Doesn't
use toes to type on the keyboard. Uses text-to-speech to do everything. So before we dive into this special episode of TIGB, let's start with Legs. What have you been up to, I guess, in general?
Well, I got married this year, which was a big change to anything going on in my life. And so most of my gaming took a hold while we sorted out immigration and everything. But lately I've just been playing lots of Melee, and most of my Game Boy stuff has just been doing database stuff. I've been working on collecting more and more manuals in the background.
Yeah, I know a thing or two about collecting manuals.
If only we could get them scanned.
Look, if we all find a way to make it quicker to scan manuals, I'll do it. Each manual takes like 20 to 30 minutes.
It's true.
And I have like over 100 Game Boy manuals, so
it's only getting worse. They're coming in so fast.
It's true. Awesome. What about you, Mo?
I haven't been doing a lot lately. Like, people who follow me on Twitch will have noticed that I have been a little bit absent. I just didn't feel like it. I don't know. But I have been playing a little bit of Picross 2 here and there, because that game literally never ends. I think I'm like 78 hours in right now, and I still have 5.5 worlds to get through. It's gonna take a while, and I'm just gonna concentrate on doing that one before moving on to anything else. I just want to get it over with. Not because I'm tired of Picross 2, because I really like the game, but it's just too much for a challenge to do. But yeah, we'll get through that, hopefully by the end of August, so I can move on to something else.
A month out.
Yeah, I try to do half a world each stream, so that's like 2.5 to 3 hours for like half a world. So yeah, if I stream more, I would have been done already, but yeah, I haven't been streaming a lot lately. I've been playing some Sekiro Shadows Die Twice again. It's like the fourth time I didn't restart, at least, but like I always play a little and then I put it down and don't play it anymore. But now I'm almost at the end, and then I have to do like the 2 more runs, I guess, to complete the game. But I really like that game. It's really cool. I wouldn't say I'm getting really better at like not dying and things, but I am getting better at understanding how the game works. I played it way too safe at the start, like always trying to do stealth, but the game really does not want you to do that. You can, but it's more about one-on-one sword fighting, basically. So I'm playing it a little bit more aggressive now, and it shows that it's definitely the way to go. And besides that, I have some Steam games that I got during the sale. When was it, like a month ago or something?
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, I've played a few of those. Like, played a little bit of Iron Fury, which is basically New Age Duke Nukem 3D. It's awesome. But again, it's a first-person shooter, so I get motion sickness after a while, so I can only play it in short bursts. I played a little bit of Lisa. That's a game that you recommended. And I'm stuck. Like, I don't know where to go. I'm pretty sure I'm just missing one door that I keep passing. Because I have to find my bike to be able to jump over gaps and
Oh.
things like that. But for some reason, I I have seen everything I can do, and I just can't find where the bike door is or how to get to that. And I tried looking at a guide, but it just it's not a very well written guide. Maybe there's a map or something online. I haven't checked that yet, but it's an okay game so far.
Okay.
Yeah,
You haven't gotten to the prostitutes yet. That's why.
yeah. I mean, I get the game. I get the inspiration from it, but I'm not really the biggest fan of like the 2D world it uses to progress. But I mean, I'm having fun with it at least. But I hope I get unstuck pretty shortly so I can move on. Because it should only be like a 10-hour game, but I'm already like 3 hours in because I'm stuck. So
I
we'll
beat it
see.
in 8, so...
Yeah, so it's not long, but I just have to put some more time into it. What else did I get? But I haven't played. I finally bought Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass, which is basically Mother 4,
Yep.
something like that. But that's a 40-hour game, so I haven't started it yet. Like I don't want to play a 40-hour game right now.
Is it like a fan-made sequel?
No, it's not a sequel. It's just very much inspired by it. So there was gonna be a Mother 4, but they had to, of course, change it because Nintendo being Nintendo. But I don't know if they're still doing it. But that was supposed to be the actual Mother 4, but they had to change the names and things like that. That one looks a lot more than like Earthbound. This one is a mix between Earthbound and Undertale, I would say, but Undertale was already inspired by Earthbound, so it's just one of those games. It's like absurdness, but it makes you think, and it has a way deeper meaning than the absurdity that you're seeing on the screen, basically. But I haven't really gotten to play it yet, and I'm sure I played some other Steam games here and there, but nothing in particular. But that's pretty much all I've been up to.
I'm pretty busy nonetheless, even off stream.
Yeah, I am busy, but like not with like streaming and such. Like, I haven't felt the need to do that for a few weeks now.
I feel that. Like, I've just recently started getting back into streaming again after like a month and a half hiatus. So, I definitely feel that.
I've been off from streaming like this entire year. The only time I turn my stream on these days is when I'm playing Melee with Petra, and I just turned it on because I'm playing on my CRT anyway.
Yeah. We're just getting old. We're getting too old for streaming. We have to find a new service.
I already found it. It's running this database.
Like someone coming over and scanning all of my manuals for me. I've been up to, so like WoW Classic came out like Burning Crusade Classic came out like a month ago. So I've been playing that. I'm getting to the point where that has slowed down dramatically because I have the best gear I can possibly get right now. So I have zero need to play the game right now, which is part of the course for like an MMO. So gotta wait for that next patch to come out before I deep dive into it again. If I do deep dive into it, I don't know. We'll see. I've been really invested into Final Fantasy XIV though lately. The game got a huge resurgence recently because a lot of popular streamers started playing it again, and yeah, I've been playing through it. I've actually been like paying attention to the story this time around, and it's the story itself is A Realm Reborn story kind of sucks, but like the overarching like story and game so far has been remarkable. So I'm actually pretty happy with it so far. I played Blackthorn for the Super Nintendo. Great game, played with just god awful controls though. It's so bad. You press the B button to jump, and it takes 2 seconds to jump because Blizzard had to make the most animated jump in the world. Cool game though. Hard, like the final boss is hard as nails, but awesome game. Amazing soundtrack. Phenomenal graphics. The animations are great, but man, the controls are just absolute, just dog water. So, you and I just got done doing a Game Wheels marathon. Where
Yeah,
you
it was
ran
earlier
Darkwing
today.
Duck. Yeah, you ran Darkwing Duck. I did Little Mermaid and Shaq Fu. And then, what else? Oh, I've been playing a lot of Mutant League Football on Steam. That game is actually pretty legit fun, so. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been up to. I think I was going to do Beavis and Butthead and or Wayne's World for the Game Boy sometime later today, so. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, that about sums it up for everybody, I guess. Yeah.
So yeah, topic for today, or this episode, not today's episode, this episode, is basically the last 3 years of This Is Game Boy.
I can't believe it's been 3 years.
It's crazy. It's been 3 years already. Basically, when we come back, we're gonna talk about just a look back of what the podcast, how in the infancy of how it started. Just thoughts in general of the previous episodes, the present status of the podcast, and the future status of the podcast. So when we come back, we'll talk about all that. Stay tuned. So yeah, welcome back everybody. So 3 years of a podcast talking about nothing but that little gray brick.
Basically, yeah. Like, I would say 80% at least, yeah.
Are you doing stuff on the side?
No, we had some episodes that were not like exactly about Game Boy.
They were about yourselves or about
Yeah.
some events.
So it sounds like Mo is cheating.
You did one yourself.
Alright, well, 80% according to Mo, we talked about the Game Boy. Don't know what we're doing about this other 20% here. He's probably talking about Mega Man, some garbage blue robot game that we both actually like. So.
Yeah. Or we're just talking about movies.
More specifically, Arnold movies.
Yeah, you cannot count the True Lies episode as a podcast about a Game Boy game. You cannot.
It's true, we can't actually. That was like just a movie review podcast episode. So
The craziest part of 3 years is that, like, you guys basically never have more than one episode into the future planned. If you asked us 3 years ago to list 3 years worth of content that we were going to do, I'm sure we could have listed maybe like 2 games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. I don't even know what I'm doing for light episodes until like I need to record them.
Basically, yeah. Those are the hardest to figure out most of the time, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Like looking back at the podcast, like just like the start of the podcast, right? Like I remember like we've talked about like not just Mo and I, but like this predates Legs even.
Oh yeah.
Like we've talked about doing something just specific to the Game Boy, whether it's like a podcast or some sort of like Let's Play channel or something. Like and this was like not just Mo and I, like this was like the Game Boy community in general, like the more active people in the Game Boy community. Like this was Mo, myself, Bengara, Slash, and John Carls. There was a bunch of like just people just in general. It's like, yeah, this is a great idea, but like we're a bunch of old people that don't like to do anything and don't like to start something. We just like to talk about doing it, and that's it. So when Monochrome City became a team, via John Carls and Grun and Hero and whatnot, like we started doing like, hey, like what should we do as a team ideas, right? And like this is kind of like when Legs started to get into the picture, because we invited her to the Monochrome City team as well.
At that point, I was still even new to the Game Boy community as a whole. I was just a loudmouth in the Discord.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You know, but you had a lot of technical background, and you were playing Game Boy games. That's pretty much all it took to get into Monochrome City, and we started labeling out all these projects, right? Like we had the album, which was the first project we did, which was actually super cool.
I forgot about that.
Mo made the Game Boy styled manual about everyone's certain song picks for the album.
Yep.
That was actually that was still to date, honestly, aside from the podcast, one of my favorite projects we've done as a team. Then obviously we have the website that we've been talking about redoing for the last 18 years.
That's just not happening.
Oh my god, redoing the website. That was the first thing I remember you guys talking about.
We've been talking about redoing the
Holy
GB
shit.
Runners website since it got built.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that was 5-6 years ago. Then we had the achievement hunting thing. This predates RetroArch even.
Yeah.
I forgot who they are now, but there's this one service out there that allows you to download an emulator or some sort of plugin for VBA, I think it is, or whatever, that allows you to do retro achievements as you play through them.
That's a project from Sting X2 at least. I'm on the same team as him for the system challengers, so that's his thing. And they make magazines and things like that as well. It's really cool, really? Actually. Yeah, online digital magazines. You would like a Nintendo Power or another game magazine from back in the days. So.
Oh, that's super cool. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we did that for a while. We actually had we actually had to get to the point where Legs and I actually built a widget for OBS to automatically show the achievements and the most recent one obtained and stuff like that. We actually had a little bit of work put into that one.
I was so excited to be invited into the team. I was just trying to volunteer whatever skills I had to what was happening.
I mean, there's just so many other projects that it's kind of came up and just disappeared as well too. And then all of a sudden there's hey, what about a podcast? And I remember my answer to it right away was, no one is ever going to listen to this.
True.
It is such a niche podcast that no one there's 100 billion video game podcasts out there, right? And a lot of them talk about a variety of things like new games, soundtracks, speed running, retro gaming in general. So that is a big umbrella to cover. There's so many different directions that people can take, a game podcast. And all of a sudden it's here's a video game podcast explicitly about the Game Boy. Not the Game Boy Color, not the Game Boy Advance. The original DMG gray brick Game Boy that came out in 1989.
Not even that. Specifically, you could even try to pitch that to somebody and they'd be like, oh, cool, where's the episode of my favorite game? And you'd be like, all those popular games? No, none of those. Mario's Mission, though.
Everyone loves Maru's Mission. Especially Ariel and Smart Alec. They love Maru's Mission.
Yeah.
We haven't done the most popular, quote unquote, popular games that we've done is Darkwing Duck and the Spider-Man games.
Yeah, Mega Man.
We did DWR.
We've done quote unquote Pokemon and Link's Awakening, but that was just coming out from the remake, so those were a little bit special.
Those were more just it was more of we're not going to talk about the Game Boy version. It was how is this game like the Game Boy version, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the entire idea of the podcast, I guess, and if I remember correctly, John Carlos was the first one to mention
Yeah.
doing one like that because he was already doing like the frame savers, and he was using the frame savers to promote some Game Boy games that he was playing.
Yep.
And yeah, like I definitely jumped onto the idea because I definitely wanted more people to know about obscure Game Boy games or things nobody had ever heard of or something like that. But I also wanted to deviate from like my system challenge, and especially the start of my system challenge, where you're looking at somebody playing the game in like a moment in time, really. Like all the emotions that come with playing that game come forward, like getting angry, getting sad, getting frustrated, or just being all out happy, which is something that doesn't really happen a lot of times, sadly. But yeah, like I wanted to be informative about these games that I had played without being emotional about it at the time, because there have been a few videos I kind of wish I would redo, like the end of Bomberman, for example. Even the Trip World one, like the episode that came out last or 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Like you can always find our playthrough links in it. But I was so mad at Trip World when I was playing it. Probably just because I was mad that day, and then I had to play it, and I didn't really enjoy the game, yada yada yada. So if you look at that video of Trip World, I'm just ripping that game apart because I was so mad. And yeah, this was just a different way of approaching the game, and like actually investigating some things that could be interesting for people, and just talking about it in a normal fashion without just getting too emotional. So
I definitely don't know anything about being mad at a video game. There definitely is not a video out there of me snapping a SNES controller in half playing Super Mario Land 2. But yeah, no, like there's definitely playthroughs. Like I've gone back and like looked through and was like Chess Master, for example. I love chess. Like I'm not good at chess by any means, but I like playing chess. And that game infuriated me so quick because like the AI is just smarter than I am. So I'm like, all right, well this sucks. And then like my Kirby Dream Land 2 playthrough, like I took a phone call like halfway through the game, so like 30 minutes of the game is just muted basically.
yeah, I mean
Super Mario
it's
Land 2, yeah, like
yeah,
I would
it's
love
live
to have like
content, you know. Like
yeah.
It's a completely different thing. It's like our quote unquote secret project that we are doing. It's a let's play, but even that is like completely different than playing a game live in front of an audience. So it's just it's just really different.
Well, it's weird, right? So like the thing that you and I are doing right now, named to be announced still, but. You know, the thing that Mo and I are doing right now, these Let's Plays for horror games, it's a different approach. Like, it's not live as in, like, I'm streaming in front of 5, 10, 15, 100 people, you know, and then I have a bunch of eyes on me, and I'm, like, playing this retro game, and people are expecting, like, my thoughts on it, like, every waking minute. It's like two pals sitting on the couch playing a video game. Like, back in the day. Like, the only difference is, you know, Mo is thousands of miles away from me, so we have a virtual couch that we sit on, you know, while we play the games. But it's like in the early 90s, late 80s, you know, hell, even into the late 90s with the N64 and whatnot. You would go over to your friend's house, you sit down on the floor, sit down on the couch, and play a game with one another, right? And if it was a single-player game, like, you would either watch one person play it and you'd have a conversation about the game, or you'd take turns or whatever it was. It's like that's what this is like. Like this is what like this Let's Play is like. Is Mo and I are sitting on the couch, just conversing about the game, making fun of certain parts of the game, making fun of each other during certain parts of the game. Like it's it's a lot more fun and it's a lot more personal when it comes to it, versus something like a stream. Like I go into Mo's stream and it's like, yo, what's up, EBC? And then all of a sudden, like, I'm making fun of him because he can't make a jump or whatever. And then I can just visually see him get just frustrated and mad because, like, not only is he getting mad at the game, now he has a heckler in his chat, me, just heckling him because I can do that. So, you know, and then vice versa, you know. Like, you know, he comes into my chat and I, you know, greet him and whatever else. And then he's like, oh, this game is garbage. And I'm like, I kind of like it, you know. And then, you know, I mean, there's like that back and forth. And then there's like the conversation. Like, there's just so much happening with live stream content, you know. And like Legs, even like when Legs was doing Game Boy stuff, you know, Legs never talked on stream. So Legs would.
That's why I'm the smart one. I don't have a cam or a mic. So I can be as mad at the game as I want, and I just type smiley faces in my chat.
Yeah, Legs just slowly would just like pause the game, talking, you know, just chat and, you know, type in chat and keep playing the game, you know. She's the smart one of the group.
The amount of times where someone's coming to my chat, I'm like mid speedrun, and I just stop and type to them, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
I did that last night. I had to pause because I forgot the route for Little Mermaid. So I paused it mid speedrun to look up the route.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's real speedrunning.
I was still underestimate, so what?
That's the realist speedrunning right there.
But I mean, like, even like looking back again, like just the start of it, I never thought the project would come to life because, like I said, like we've always talked about doing projects, but we never like actively pursued them at all.
Yeah, it was months of discussing that, and
Yeah.
I am one of those people that I just want to start something. I don't want to keep on, how do you say it in English, like spinning around in circles or spinning circles
Yeah, you don't
around
wanna
it
be-
or
I
whatever.
don't want to beat around the bush anymore.
Yeah, I was just like, let's just do this because otherwise it's just never gonna happen. So at the moment I said it, I was like, look, I'll do it because I already have experience with doing podcasts anyways, and I kind of want to do it again. So who's gonna join me? And the last part is who's gonna edit it. Like, I mean,
Yeah. That was the tricky part too, because it's like, yeah, I think it was John that initially said like, hey, you know, we should maybe do a podcast about Game Boy. And then you took the reins on it, and I think the reason like I just happened to be the next person on is just because you and I were the most active talkers in the Monochrome City Discord. You know, so.
You two had already been like working together at that point already on like Tiny 10 and stuff like that, so you were sort of used to working with each other in projects.
Kind of. Like, our Tiny 10 history is really interesting as well, too. Because, like, I joined Tiny 10 at number 2. Like, I was, like, the year I started speedrunning, basically, I joined the Tiny 10. Sorry, Captain Duck, but I beat Captain Duck in Tiny 10 number 2, literally out of nowhere. Like, no one knew who the hell I was, and I joined this race and took first, so... And then when Tiny 10-3 came along, like I gave Mo a couple suggestions for like some like puzzle speedruns because I was big into puzzle speedrunning at the time. And then in 4, 5, and I think 6 is when I started providing art. And I think 5 and 6 is when I started actually getting into the commentary for Tiny 10. And I think I even ran in 5 too, so... Like, the history behind Tiny 10 is really interesting, because, like, Mo's always been like, I need help. Like, no one wants to help me. I always need help. And this, that, whatever. I was like, all right. So I literally just, like, you know, I'll help you. Like, this is fun. This is good enough. Like, I got to the point where, like, I would reach out to Feasel to try and get us onto the speed gaming channels, and then... Because originally, Tiny 10 was on ESA.
yeah.
There's probably a light episode in talking about the history of the Tiny 10.
Yeah, oh yeah. Because like originally Tiny 10 was on ESA because Bengara used to help us with the Tiny 10, and Bengara was an admin for the ESA channel. So Tiny 10 used to be exclusively on the ESA channel, and then when ESA basically said no, for the most part.
Well, it was just Bengara just stopped with ESA. He was done.
Well, right, yeah. That's why I said like ESA pretty much just said no after that. You know, like we never reached out to him, but like it was just done. And then we went. Then that was kind of when I got involved. and I started reaching out to Feasel and got us onto the speed gaming channel for a few years, and then the Tiny Ten remix started happening with Enemy, and Infinite Mystery, and we're like, hey, like, is it cool if we used RGL as a platform for the actual Tiny Ten? And Enemy was like, yeah, absolutely. So that's the history of like the channels. Like, we went from ESA to speed gaming to RGL TV now. So
Shoutouts to RGL.
yeah, RGL is phenomenal.
Absolutely. And that was kind of what we were trying to do with Monochrome City, basically. Like,
Yeah,
just provide people with quote-unquote 24/7 Game Boy content, but like, we don't have enough people or dedicated people, I would say. Because I'm sure we can invite like a whole bunch of people to be part of the actual team, but like, nobody really has the time, I guess, to do that kind of content constantly.
Right. Well, then, so like, back to the podcast. So it's like I just like inherently became like Mo's co-host, just simply because like him and I have been so active on the Discord, and Mo and I had some history. Like, honestly, at the time of the start of this podcast, like, the only time Mo and I ever talked to one another voice to voice was Tiny Ten commentary.
Yeah.
Like, and that was it. Like, Mo and I hardly ever talked directly to one another. We were more acquaintances than we were good friends at this point. And then we needed someone to produce the podcast, because like, I don't know how to do that, and Mo's like, I don't have time to do this. And then
When I volunteered to do it, I also had no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
I just went, well, I kind of want to learn how to edit audio, so I could try it, I guess. And my entire knowledge was just the fact that I had cut videos in Premiere before, and I was like, how different could it be?
Yeah, I think I remember
I was just
me.
doing a single test episode for you guys. I was like, I can try it, we'll see how it is with you guys. And I was like, I'll just give it to them and see if they like it, and we'll go from there. But instead, they just posted it immediately and then just kept giving me new audio.
Yep.
it's true. Which leads us into episode 0. Oof. Awesome idea. Awesome idea of an episode, right? Like an introduction to the podcast, but
It's true, the concept was great.
oh,
Execution.
you can tell that there was two people that have never talked to one another trying to talk to one another.
I'm basically just reading, and I don't have the notes for that anymore. But basically just reading a page to people. That was basically it. Just trying to explain what we were gonna do.
The audio quality isn't even good to make up for it.
Yeah, like, oh, it's just so like, we were like, oh yeah, we need to sync, so we did like 3, 2, 1, clap. But like, I don't think you could hear Mo's clap on the sync, and it was just an absolute disaster from out of the gate. And then like, you put two people in the same virtual space. It's like, all right, you two know nothing about each other. You two have never talked to one another. Converse. And it's like,
The record button is on.
what's your favorite color?
I mean, it was a good test to see what could happen, at least. So yeah, it was fine. The only problem is, and like, the episode is definitely still around. Like, we haven't deleted it or anything. But yeah, like we just explained, like, this was gonna be something everybody of Monochrome City was gonna do, not just me and EBC and Legs them for editing. But yeah, like, JC basically stopped being on Twitch and things like that. Yeah. Man Over Mars quit his own podcast back then, so he didn't want to do it anymore. He was starting to concentrate more on his art. So it was just us Like, there wasn't anybody else anymore who wanted to do it. So if you listen to that first episode, we try explaining like, oh yeah, everybody on the team is gonna be on it, yada yada yada. Totally untrue. Well, we have Hero, of course, from time to time, and Man Over Mars has been.
We've had Man Over Mars as a guest, yeah.
Yeah, but it was more something to be like, oh, this week it's me and Man Over Mars, and then it's like Hero and the EBC. That was the original idea, basically. But yeah, that didn't happen. So if you listen to episode 0 now, it makes no sense because that is totally not what happened at all.
Man, a Hero and EBC episode would just be too much stardom in one pack there.
We'll do that for the 6-year anniversary.
EBC and Hero show? Oh man, I don't think the world will be ready for that one. I don't even know what we talk about.
Not Battletoads.
Probably Man O' War, like one of the worst Game Boy games ever. But then we hit episode 0, right? We had this original idea in mind, and then when it came to the first episode, you and I were like, yeah, we'll do Solar Striker. That's a pretty basic game to get started with. And
yeah, and it was a joke because it was our first episode, which is called a pilot episode, and it's a shoot 'em up. So I was like, yeah, that's it. That's just how we need to start.
There's many hidden puns in the podcast if you pay close attention.
There are. Coming from the game being released, when it was, we released the episode at a certain time during the year. The Battletoads episode, for example, that was, I think, the 20th or 25th anniversary of the Battletoads. So, even though I wasn't a part of that episode, because, God forbid, I'd never want to talk about those goddamn frogs, ever. I told Mo and Hero, I was like, hey, you all should do an episode on Battletoads because, it's the 20th or 25th anniversary of Battletoads. That'd be actually a really cool thing to do. Spider-Man, coincidentally, Homecoming or Spider-Verse or something was out, I think, around that time. So we did Spider-Man stuff, and yeah, it's just, there's just so many, things that you don't really get to see or think about or actually get to hear in the episode, but there's a rhyme or reason for some of the stuff that we actually do that just goes completely uncaught. So but again, the pilot episode for Solar Striker, I've played Solar Striker a few times, right? Obviously Mo has, and then we got to the point where we had to talk about Solar Striker, and my idea of talking about a game and Mo's idea of talking about a game are pretty different. They still are, but we figured out how to mesh the two now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember when we did the episode, it was literally just verbatim reading words off of a piece of paper again. Mm-hmm. And we were so serious throughout the entire episode too. We had a couple little jokes here or there, but if you go back to listen to the pilot or the first episode versus the most recent episodes, there's almost no laughing in the first episodes, and the recent episodes it's all Legs gets to hear is Mo and I making jokes and laughing about it for the next 20 minutes.
I have to cut segments of laughing because sometimes it takes too damn long.
So
amazing. Yeah, I'm looking at the notes right now, and again, this is a thing our patrons can see. They can look at all the notes. But if you look at the notes for Solar Striker, it's just a wall of text. We didn't even have the template yet because I made that right after this episode.
Yep.
So it's just a block of text, really, that we read.
And it's not even scripted. If you ever look at my light notes when I ever actually put them into here, it's actually wrote out like a script to where verbatim, if you read it, it would sound like you're talking to the camera. This is literally just robot text onto a piece of paper that you would read off of Wikipedia.
Yep. Oh boy. Yeah. And back then, because it was the first episode, and like this is something I always like to do with my content, and that is put jokes in them. Because I just really love writing comedy as well. Like I once had to write a play when I was 18, and it was like a comedy, and I got praised for it. So that's something I always try to implement in whatever I do. So at the start, like I think we had that stupid question of the the week or something bit. Like that was like pure scripted comedy, but like after a few episodes for me at least, it became very clear that it didn't really work that way. This wasn't just a platform to do it like that. So like in later episodes, it just went into like, I know, like obscure references that nobody gets if you're not paying attention. Like there's episodes where, and I don't remember which one it is, but literally the first 4 sentences we say are the lyrics to Creed's whatever. So it's like dumb bits like that I do like to put in from time to time. I think the first episode we did with Hero, I made the introduction like, whose line is it anyway? It's things like that. I do like to put those in, and those work well.
It was Kid Icarus for the Creed thing, because I sang Creed for the intro, and then after that we just literally stuck with the Creed theme almost the entire intro.
Yeah, and Creed shows up in a lot of episodes. Like
so
you really need to pay attention.
More than one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If you write into us and find all the hidden creeds, we'll send you a special prize.
I'll send you a manual scan that you can get off of gbmanuals.com.
That's high value. Those are hard to come by. An EBC scan.
I'll send you a scan that I did. Those are even harder to come by.
Oh boy.
But before we take a break, like I want to touch on just one more thing. So, like after the pilot episode, after Solar Striker, that was where we were like, hey, like, okay, we have this first episode out, we listened to it and kind of like we critiqued ourselves. And I think we obviously swear, the three of us obviously swear. This is part of our language. It's just how we do things. But I remember, I believe Leg started censoring at least you.
I didn't even tell them. I just thought, I heard one of them swear, and I thought about how funny it would be to censor it with the Game Boy startup noise, and then just from that point forward, the podcast became censored.
Yeah, which is funny because, like, I swear like a sailor, especially on stream, and Mo has been known to throw a few words out as well too.
I make up swears, like I just randomly make up stuff.
If you only know us from the podcast, then like meeting either EBC or Mo on one of another platforms, you might be surprised.
Your ears are gonna melt. Like your ears will bleed from like the vulgarity that comes out of our mouth. Because like after we realized like, hey, like Leg censored our swearing in episode 1. Hey, this is not a bad idea. Like, let's try and keep it PG-13. And Mo and I have tried, but Mo and I try pretty hard to not swear. And like, there are times like we've caught ourselves as like, that we just make some weird noise afterwards, or like every once in a while, like slip ups come up, or like if we're really passionate about something, we'll say a swear, and then you'll hear the ding, from like censoring us. But for the most part, I would say like a majority of our episodes like are very much like Mo and I like filtering our own profanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which I think is actually pretty awesome because, like I said, like if you talk to us in normal conversation at like a convention or just on the street or whatever, like we're gonna dump a few probably F-bombs at you, and you're gonna be like, you swear? And it's like, yeah. You know?
Yeah.
It's a good thing, because even though our audience isn't children, our audience is 35-year-olds who have children and might only get to listen to a podcast in the car with their kids.
Yeah, it gives the ability for someone that wants to have the podcast on, like, yeah, in a car with children, or if they want to have it on in, like, a video game shop or whatever, or they want to listen to it at work. They don't have to worry about some 34-year-old, moron screaming, blaring the F word into their ear or anything like that at all. It's, it's pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Filtered out. It's pretty family friendly when it comes to that. So I think that's actually a super awesome thing that Legs started for us, or at least set the bar for us. So
yeah, and it's also a little bit more professional, I guess. Like,
yeah.
we silliness aside with all these episodes, we do try to inform people, and it's not like you can't have any swears in it, but like, it just doesn't fit the format that much anyway, so it's better to get those out of the way. Some of them have slipped through the cracks, though.
Oh, yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
Most of my swearing actually doesn't get censored at all.
Yeah.
Why? My ears just don't pick it up. Whenever Mo swears, I hear it immediately and fix it, but you slip them through all the time.
Yeah, I'm good at it. I'm this sneaky profanity person.
Find all of EBC's hidden swears. Write in, I'll send you a prize.
I found one. I was like, I listened to the episode. I'm like, oh, Legs forgot that one. I'm like, I'm not gonna point it out though. And then out of nowhere, we decided to do light episodes as well, like around episode 3, I think it was. Oh, as much as I like doing light episodes, I still to this day don't understand why we started doing light episodes.
Yeah, but I guess because the original idea was to do 2 full episodes a month, but with scheduling and things like that, especially because I'm so far away, so we only have 1 day basically to record these things. That it was just better to have a smaller episode in between where just one of us talked. Well, that was just the entire idea behind it, really.
Yeah. Then we called it a light episode because, well, there's a Game Boy Light, so
We thought about the name for that for 40 seconds, and we were like, good enough.
Yep. Yeah. Man, what a journey that was to start. Jesus.
Yeah, maybe a little, because we're gonna take a break before we move on, I guess.
Yeah.
But some small trivia about the pilot episode, and this goes with the entire scheduling thing. So we usually record on a Saturday, right? That's usually what we do. For me, it's around 7 p.m. Yeah, p.m. For EBC, it's around noon, basically. But when we scheduled that first episode, we scheduled it a month in advance or something, so we knew we had to be there. But during the day, for me in the afternoon, basically, where my old school was, there was this kind of project with pop-up stores and things like that, and one of my old classmates actually made an escape room there, so I was invited to go there for the opening, where, of course, you go to an opening of something, you get a few beers or drinks or things like that. And then my best buddy came over to check it out as well, and he took me to another opening there, which was a bar, and he kept giving me beers all the time, and I was like, dude, no, I have to stop, I have to record this podcast in I don't know, an hour. No, here's another beer. So our very first real episode, I was drunk when I recorded it. I don't know if it shows or if you can hear it, but I was so drunk during that episode. That's something nobody knows.
That's amazing.
Yeah, typical. And yeah, that goes with the scheduling. Like sometimes things come up and then we have to reschedule. But then I was like, no, we have to record this now today. So yeah, I just came home drunk. Yeah,
That's when light episodes become a thing.
yeah.
Now, in a way. But yeah. Legs, do you have anything else to add to the start of the journey before we dive into kind of like the more juicier part of the podcast?
I just still can't believe that you guys let me produce this thing at all. The best part was there was like no instruction for me. They just handed me the podcast and were like, "All right, produce it." So I just did like everything that is the things I like in other podcasts. I always had like a good little bits of audio left over from the breaks that I have nothing to do with, so I always like to stick one right at the end. When I was a kid, I used to like when you go to movies and they would have the post-credit stuff every once in a while. But no, I just can't believe you guys are still letting me produce this. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to start, I mean, we didn't have any. I mean, we still don't have any money, but I mean, to start, we didn't have any excess funds to like pay for an actual producer or anything of that sort. So, you volunteering to help was a godsend for us, just in general. And then after a while, like we kept sending you stuff, and it's like we had this Patreon, and it's like I'm like. Mo and I would talk, and it's like we should pay Legs to like do this, taking time out of her life to do this stuff, and I mean like it. I don't know if we could find a producer that would fit Mo and I better, honestly. Like
Yeah, I have the benefit now of knowing how the two of you interact.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, because we all have very similar passions, similar hobbies. We're around the same age. Like we all had a fairly similar growing up as well too, because we talk about that once in a while in Discord. I just feel like the match there was just destiny, fate, whatever you want to call it. Like it's just like the perfect match. Like even though you had no experience, it's like here's some MP4 files at the time, like.
Yeah.
Make us not sound like idiots, you know.
Yeah, and I remember Lex, you saying, "Yeah, I have no idea how I have to do this," and I'm pretty sure I was like, "I have some experience. Just use what is it called? Audition, I guess. Yeah, Audition. I always confuse Audacity and Audition. I was like, use that, and for my track, de-esser immediately. Just use de-esser."
There are episodes where I've had to run 2 de-essers on Mo. For whatever reason, his voice just needs it.
Good. Oh boy. Yeah. Because of my accent, I have a strong S sound. So it's like, because I had some experience doing some Let's Play videos with my voice, and I was, oh boy, these asses. Yeah, they have to be de-assed. So I knew that was definitely needed, at least. So that was a start.
And then my voice is just so monotone and boomy to begin with. I can just imagine how that played well. So
honestly, EBC's voice is the easiest because of that reason. It's always
voice of an angel.
It just comes out exactly the same every time. I barely have to do anything.
Yeah.
Remove the background noise. It's just low bass, so it works fine.
Yeah,
Voice
I have
of
that
an angel.
I have that experience now because I'm doing the Let's Play videos for us, and it's like just noise reduction, and that's it. Like it's fine. There's no peaking or anything. Don't have to do anything. It's just here's the noise reduction filter, and it's gone.
Literally always the best audio.
Yeah.
It just feels good to be perfect. Oh man! All right, so we're gonna take a break here. We've been chatting about the start for the journey for a while, but we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about basically the midpoint all the way to the present, which sounds like a lot, but honestly, it actually isn't that much. But there's some pretty interesting stuff in this segment, so stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. Yeah, so had a nice little intro, nice little jot down memory lane there to start to figure out basically how the podcast just became to be. But like a few of us mentioned that, like, you know, Mo and I together to start, like, it wasn't all bad, but there was definitely like a big disconnect, right? Like you have one person that, you know, thinks and talks one way, and another person that thinks and talks another way, and they've never conversed. Like the only interaction they've ever had was commentating Tiny Tens, which only ever happened twice a year. So, it was tough. It just took a lot of just like repetition and time, honestly, just to like figure out what our groove was, you know, our flow. But I personally think, to this day, to this episode even, True Lies was the episode where Mo and I finally found, like, our flow together.
It really was a turning point.
Yeah. It honestly was.
Yeah, it's
Like,
weird that you guys experienced it like that, because I don't. I like saw the progression for sure, but like I don't know, I can't pinpoint it, but I guess it is that one then. And then maybe it has just something to do with, like, that was the first episode we did where we were like, let's just make this super fun for ourselves, because the game itself doesn't have a lot of things to talk about, to be perfectly honest. So let's just be a little bit more silly this time around, and like focus more on the movie than the actual game itself, which wasn't really scripted.
too far off.
No, like, when I look at the notes, like, there's like a few references to the movies for sure, but we did have like an entire outline for the game. But we just started talking about the movie, and it became this entire bit of just doing that. So, maybe that was just the thing that triggered it for the episodes that came after it or something like that. Yeah.
I would say, like, that's when, like, a lot of our, like, side tangents really started to happen as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I would say, like, from episode, like, 0 to 6, because True Lies was episode 7. From 0 to 6, like, because Froggy Game, we had Hero on for a special guest.
Yeah.
And I felt like we took ourselves way more serious than we actually were. You know, because, like, at heart we're still, you know, 10-year-old kids playing a Game Boy, you know, even though we're 34 years old now.
Yep.
I think we just took ourselves so serious. It's like, hey, like, this is what we want with the podcast. Here's, like, this big, like, strict path that we have to follow to do so, because either A, that's what other people do, or B, just because, like, that's just what we know type deal, or just what we've experienced from other things. I think when episode 7 hit, when True Lies hit, I think it was like you and I had such an experience with that movie, because it was our first Arnold Schwarzenegger game that we talked about as well.
Yep.
That, like, we always joked about, you know, True Lies, like, leading up to the actual recording of the episode. Like, I remember, like, the Discord, like, channel for the episode was just nothing but, like, True Lie gifs for, like, a week until we actually got to the recording of it. And I think that was when, like, that shell just, like, broke open, and both of our personalities, like, seeped into that episode, which made it fun, because, like, that was when there was actually, like, laughing, joking, like, side tangents. Like, there was a lot going on in that episode that didn't pertain to the game at all. It was literally just you and I being you and I. You know, it was a lot of just personality coming out all of a sudden, and it was a big directional, big steer away from how we previously did episodes.
I
Yeah.
vividly remember editing that episode because, like Mo said, the notes were absolutely normal. And I had to check the notes to see what audio to put, or what music to put in for the breaks. And I went to go. I'm like, I listened through this entire episode, and I don't have much of a history with True Lies, so like, it was just like the two of them having a whole hell of a lot of fun about something I had no idea what the hell it was. And then when I went to go finally check the notes to be like, how the hell was this planned? They look like a perfectly normal episode.
Yeah.
It's like you guys started the intro where you were chatting with each other about it, and you were joking about it like we all were all week in the Discord, and then it just never stopped for an hour and a half.
Yeah, like weirdly enough, like it's still not a well listened to episode for some reason, even though we keep mentioning it throughout all the other episodes. Like, oh, you have to check out that one, but I guess people just don't have any connection to True Lies. Like, at least not the game, because
Not the game.
yeah, it's not a super well known game. But yeah, maybe that's the reason.
I assure you, if you don't know about the True Lies game and you think you don't care about it, this podcast is still for you. There's very little of the game in the podcast.
It's very much a movie review. It's a movie and meme review, basically.
Yeah.
If you've heard more than 10 episodes of This Is Game Boy and you have not heard the True Lies episode, that's a shame. That's a shame.
Oh, man. Just like... And it was my intro, too, because you can tell because it's the world's crappiest intro. So... Like, that's another thing, too, like, our intros. So, like, we mentioned before, it's like, sometimes, we just don't know what we're recording until, like, a week in advance. Or 2 weeks in advance. And when we start up, we always forget, like, who... Because we take turns starting each episode. So, and we always forget, like, who did it. It's like, who's up? Oh, I am. It's like, oh, okay. Mo's a bit more wittier than I am, so he can come up with, like, an actual pretty fun intro for something. And then for me, it's like, I'm not witty at all. It just is like, if I don't have time to think about something, like, it's not going to sound great at all. So, like, the True Lies episode was just like, it takes two to tango, and it's like, great, because that makes 2 references in the movie. No reference at all in the game. And it's just like, alright, well. And then, like, the first note that we have is the movie came out July 15th of 1990. Like, it was just set up right away.
I feel like that note was the last time either of you looked at the notes that episode.
Probably true. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I was, like, for me, that was the turning point for us, because then we went into Molemania after that.
Yeah, that was a choice game.
Well, the crazy part was, like, when we started out, we had the pilot episode, and we had 4 or 5 games we actually wanted to do. We didn't know when we were going to do them, but we had 4 or 5 games. We had a list of games we wanted to do, and on that list was Molemania.
Yeah.
Because by that time, like, I've completed Molemania. I think Legs was speedrunning the glitched category for Molemania.
Yeah.
And you were really enjoying the game on stream. You know, and then we hit the Molemania game, and we never, like, critiqued the game. Like, we always, like, gave it, like, the history. Like, here's the history of the game. This is how the game is played. Like, this is the art. This is the trivia. And, like, Molemania was, like, the first game that I can recall where, like, yeah, this game really pissed us off. Or this game, like, you know, that was, like, when, like, our, like, thoughts of the actual game started to come out as well, too.
Yeah.
And then after Molemania, we had Pokemon. You know, we had the Pokemon Let's Go, which was the Red Blue remake for Switch. You know, we had I think it was did we have Hero on for that one?
Yeah.
Or was it just us two? Yeah. You know, and then we had that one, and then again, like, Hero could probably contest this too. Like, when we had Hero on for Froggy Game, you know, we were pretty, like, stick to the quote unquote script. We try not to diverge from it. And if you go back and listen to that episode, like, Hero actually doesn't talk all that much in the episode. Like, it's ran heavily by Mo and I. But then you get to, like, the Pokemon. You get to Link's Awakening, obviously Battletoads, and any of the other stuff that we've had special guests for. It's a pretty equal setting now of special guest, me, and Mo talking. Because we do diverge from the notes now. We do dive in deeper into some pieces of the notes now. Like, we're not afraid to steer away from the norm that we have set out now. So, and I think Mole Mania was, as weird as it sounds, I think Mole Mania was the driving force of that, just because of our frustrations with that game.
Yeah, the frustrations coming out of a good game, even, like, because it was a not well known game, but it's a great game, but it still pissed us off, and, like, yeah, it was a whole bag of emotions, that episode, for sure, to talk about.
If you're an 8-year-old with 3 Game Boy games, Mole Mania is great. But when you're a 30-year-old who's just trying to beat them, it's a lot less fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Very true, especially when you get to Jinbei at the end.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What a nightmare that was.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And then this is when we actually started doing, or actually, like, archiving light episode notes too. It's right after Fortress of Fear, which was episode 10. And apparently I'm the first archived light episode as well too.
Yeah.
And it's who the F is well, Belton at the time. You know, yeah, who the hell is Belton? You know, and it's interesting to just see some of that stuff come out too, because, like, this is when, like, we started archiving notes. Like, I think this is when we started, like, really getting into the Patreon side of things as well too.
Yeah, for sure.
And just trying to figure out, like, at this point we're like, hey, we have, like, a foothold now. Like, we have a footprint now. What do we do? You know, like, how do we keep this train rolling, so to speak? And I think to start, we just kind of followed along with what everyone else was doing, right? Everyone and their mother had a Patreon at the time. It's like an OnlyFans now. Everyone and their mother has an OnlyFans now. So pretty soon we'll have an OnlyFans, and we'll probably post some feet pictures on it eventually, and then get money that way. But I mean, like, everyone had a Patreon, you know, like, everyone did this, like, side stuff for, like, a subscription based thing to, like, support a project. But, like, honestly, for me, like, I never thought in a million years that anyone would ever subscribe to the Patreon.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm not a person that subscribes to Patreon at all. Like, I think subscription kind of stuff is kind of meh, in my opinion. Like, I have a few subs to Twitch. I have, you know, subs to, like, HBO and Netflix and stuff. But, like, for the most part, like, Patreon and things of that nature, like, that's not my cup of tea. That's just not my thing. So I was just like, I'm like, no one's ever going to sub to our Patreon for a Game Boy podcast. And then, well, I was proven wrong pretty quick on that. And then after a while, it was just like, all right, well, we actually have an audience now too. Like, we actually started seeing decent, you know, amount of listens for a fairly new podcast. So it was an interesting takeoff from, like, and it kind of, it was around that area of Mole Mania to Fortress of Fear is when that climb started to happen.
Yeah, it suddenly went from, like, maybe 20 listens a week to closer to 100 all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have that many episodes, basically, back then. Well, 20 probably in total with the lights or something like that, but...
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that was like when a lot more people were starting to pick us up. Not just like the Game Boy community that was listening to us, but people from beyond that as well.
Yeah, and I would say like by episode 10, like Legs has been with us long enough now at this point, almost a year, to where she probably just like knows, like, here, just throw this in, do this, be done with it in like, an hour or so. However
was
long
nice,
it takes
'cause
for stuff to happen.
By that point, I could actually like assume like what roughly an episode was going to be like, and I wouldn't like run into issues midway through that I didn't expect. By this time, I actually had like a routine down, and I had like a preset made, and like I could expect to know what effects I need to run. Things actually started sounding nice.
Things sounded nice from the get-go. We didn't sound like complete idiots.
Yeah,
it's episode 0. So.
Yeah, I think the overall quality of the how do you call it, post-production, I guess, was always very good. So maybe it just became easier for you to actually do it, I guess. But I think like the quality has been pretty much the same from the start. Of course, we run into some silly issues like our microphone switching to to the wrong microphone. Like
Don't
even
talk to me about the
even
webcam microphone.
yeah, like even today before I started, and I never change anything. Like I opened up Audacity, bam, it was set on my webcam again, and I was like, why? And why can't I just remove it as as a thing in Audacity? So I have to pay attention to that for sure.
I remember it was like it went on for like 3 episodes, and like it's just like, EBC, your mic sucks. I'm like,
There's
no.
something wrong with your mic.
She's like,
EBC.
you changed your mic. You did something with your mic. It sucks. I'm like, no. Then I opened up Audacity, and sure enough, it says microphone, Logitech C920. I was like, oh.
How did you wear a fishbowl for 3 episodes?
Yeah.
And then literally like 2 episodes later, it happened to me.
Yeah, I don't know why it suddenly is happening. Like it's happening a lot lately that I really have to like switch it over, and I'm not doing anything. So
It was awesome. But I think too, like when we hit Mole Mania and Pokemon Let's Go, I think that's when, like I said, like that's when like we broke that shell. Basically, we're like, hey, you know what? Like, this is our thing. Like, this isn't Retronauts. This isn't Frame Savers. This isn't someone else's podcast. We don't have to follow those guidelines. Like, this is Mo, EBC, and Legs' podcast. Like, let's just build our own path. Let's build our own road to it. And I think from Fortress of Fear on, it was like we just didn't take ourselves as serious as we once did. Like, we literally went into it like, okay, like, we want to at least get this content out to the people, but also we're also going to be ourselves when we do this, right? So like the most recent example of this is the Amazing Penguin episode. Right?
Yeah, that
like when you and I went on that whole tangent of that perverted penguin that with the beret and everything, like we still got the content out, we still got like the cover out, we got the gameplay out, we got all this stuff out, but like we also put a twist that is literally very unique to just you and I to make that happen.
It was around that episode that things became a lot more of like a conversation. Like around episode 10, it was a lot more like you guys conversing about the thing versus you guys like taking turns reading facts about it.
Yeah.
There are times, even still to this day, like I feel bad about like some of the episodes because I feel like I feel like I just like took over this episode because I just continually talk and that's just how I'm wired. But But like like Legs showed me like the wavelengths once, and like it was pretty equal, even though I just feel like I talk nonstop. And
I think that's also just personality based because you are more prone to talk in general. I am like these podcasts are like pretty much 90% of what I say throughout an entire week. Like I'm a very just silent person in real life as well. Like if you would ask people who know me, what the people I go to the bar with or things like that, like they will all say the same thing. It's like, yeah, he's just super quiet. Like he just doesn't say anything. Only when I need to, I will, but otherwise, I'm just sitting there. Which is not a bad thing, by the way. I mean, otherwise those people would not hang out with me anyways. But it's just a personality thing. So it is a little bit that kind of shines through in this as well. Like, I mean, of course it would. Like, it's just who we are. But yeah, and there's like another thing for me. English is just not my native language at all. So even though I am pretty fluid at it, like I would say I'm like 99% fluid at talking English for sure. But
you're good at it.
But I still need to translate things in my head, of course, accordingly. And sometimes when I can't come up with a word, your brain just freezes because you're just thinking about what is that word, and not trying to finish your sentence, and like it just short circuits. But yeah, I mean, those are just like some things that go around here. I mean,
my favorite memory of that was Gargoyle's Quest. And you couldn't say gargoyle.
I still probably can't to this day. It's a really hard word.
It was just Gurgle Quest.
Gurgle.
I just busted a gut so hard. It was so good.
Yeah, that one and the Reservoir Rats.
Reservoir Rats. Yeah.
It's just my Flemish accent together with those English pronunciations, that it just doesn't work well enough.
That one was my favorite. You sounded like Dr. Wily.
Yeah.
Or Dr. Light.
Not Dr. Wily.
Dr. Wily. Oh man. But like we still have like this a pretty unique flow to each episode as well too, because we definitely cater to like our stronger points in each episode as well, right? Like we do our intro, like we take turns with our intro, and you typically do like 800 times more games than I do, so that's your time to shine basically. But like when we get to like the second part, like we go over to like the history, like the release and things of that nature. Like I may like lead up like the release dates, the publishers and stuff like that, but there are times where it's like certain publishers, certain developers, and certain games, just in general, Mo has a lot more experience with, or a lot more history with, or a lot more knowledge in general on, and it gives him a chance to elaborate on some of that stuff. Or when it comes to like the plot, for example, in my opinion, Mo has a better voice to articulate a plot, like make it entertaining, make it sound like a story or an epic or something like that. So like I like to have Mo go through the plot, tell the story of the game from there as well too. And then when it comes into like the gameplay side of things, like that is more like the quote unquote technical piece, and I feel like I have a good technical voice because it just never fluctuates at all. But even then, like when it comes to like tips and tricks and hints and like side stuff, like Mo is strong in that stuff because like when he does play a game, like he plays the game to like find some of the stuff, understand some of the stuff, and do it. And like I do too, to an extent, but there are times like I'll play a game and like the speedrunner in me just comes out and I just barrel through a game as fast as possible, and I'm like, oh, right, there were secret rooms in Barbie Game Girl that I completely forgot about or didn't know about. Or, hey, there are these other power-ups in Barbie Game Girl that I just don't know what they do because I just never grabbed them in a speed run. So why would I ever touch them in a casual playthrough? And like, there's just a lot of things like that that gets contributed, from Mo explicitly. Like, especially when we get to like the box art side of things too. Like, you and I are really unique in that sense that, like, you went to school for art. You do a lot of design stuff. And I as well went to school for art as well, too. But, like, our art experiences are very different from one another. So, like, having that, like, point of view for the box art, too, as we come in is actually really interesting. You started adding, like, the trivia pieces at the end of that segment as well too, which I think was actually a really awesome addition as well. Just being like, hey, like, these are what the magazine said about it, or like, hey, this character makes an appearance in some dumb fighting game 20 years later, or whatever it may be. I think it's really awesome that that you added that piece in, because that honestly just wasn't a forefront thought to start.
Yeah, it's hard to find trivia, sadly, on Game Boy games. That's the downside of it. But it is nice if we can actually put something in there as well. And I think when it comes to talking about a game, like, the first reviewer basically of Game Boy games I ever saw and still watch is Jeremy Parrish with his Game Boy World back then, or Game Boy Works. Even though he always gives like a good history of things surrounding that game, that don't in particularly talk about the actual game itself. Like, I don't super like that, the way he does it. Like, I feel like he skips over so many integral things about the game, and focuses way too much on like random history around it, which is cool, by the way. It's cool that he talks about that, but when it comes to actually reviewing the game, he's usually like, yeah, this is a dumb game, I don't like it. Or like, oh yeah, I haven't even finished playing it yet because I am not good enough at it. And I felt that we had to fill in that gap with like information that is actually useful besides it's bad or it's good, Like,
yeah. I mean, also a lot of this now like falls into like interviewing people about their games, right? So like, I did our quote unquote first interview of a game designer when I did Alien 3 for late episode 19. It honestly, it wasn't even supposed to become an interview. Like, it wasn't even supposed to be a question-based tweet with Jason Austin at all. Essentially what happened is that we were trying to figure out what the goddamn knife did in the game. And we found, and Legs or Bengera or someone found this super old tweet.
It was me.
From Jason Austin.
I used Google, and I used it like a whole bunch of extremely specific search terms, which this is something I had done like several times before trying to solve the knife mystery, but I guess I just put in the exact right combination this time, and I found this like ancient tweet.
Yeah, like this tweet was old, like dawn of Twitter old, basically. And it was just like, yeah, the knife doesn't do anything. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to accept that for an answer at all. So I started tweeting at Jason Austin and asking him questions literally just explicitly about this knife and about like a couple of other things in the game that just didn't quite make sense. And then after a while, like, him and I had this long Twitter thread going on of just like literally everything you want to know about Alien 3 on Game Boy. From design direction to how long they had to program it, to special things in the game, to things they forgot about, to last minute things. Like, there's this huge thread now on Twitter between myself and Jason Austin about Alien 3. And that was kind of like the catalyst into, hey, maybe we can start interviewing developers, designers, audio people about these games, because again, like, that was never top of mind for us either. Like, this has kind of happened by accident. And then come episode 21 is when Mo did his light episode 21 on Dedius, where he interviewed Isma about the game.
Yeah, like Dedius was really cool to do because, like, there's a lot of new Game Boy games right now, and people are really getting into them. But that was like one that caught my radar very early before the entire boom of this thing that is happening right now. And then, like, I got it from Itch.io. Like, I don't have a card or anything. I just have the ROM from Itch.io, and I played through it, and I was like, wow, this is like amazing for just like a side project from someone doing a new Game Boy game, and it actually has a cool story, and maybe it isn't that long, but I mean, a lot of effort got put into that for sure. And I just felt this game was special, and yeah, if you look at it nowadays, it's the most popular new Game Boy game out there. Like, Isma got
bootlegs now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, Isma got interviewed like crazy the past few months, and his game sold out completely in twice. And his games, like the special editions or whatever they're called, like, they got scalped on eBay first of all for like incredible amounts, and
hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, and now people are actually making bootlegs out of that game. It's like, wow, that's just crazy. But yeah, I just knew that was a really special game, and I was like, I should probably try and contact Isma to see if he wants to answer some questions about it. And I'm not good at that.
He's making a new game.
He's making a new game, yeah. More on that maybe in a future episode, but yeah, I'm not good at contacting people out of the blue at all. Like, I absolutely hate that. It gives me anxiety like crazy. So that was the first one I did because, like, he wasn't like a quote-unquote professional game developer, I guess. It was just like a side project, so that was a little easier for me to do. And then later on, when we did, or I did? We did. So, which one was it again? Actually,
we did Asterix with
Asterix,
where we interviewed Alberto.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I've heard from Man Over Mars that he's a really cool person. I'll just try and contact him, and yeah, well, it definitely worked out.
I remember when we got on the topic of interviewing people, and you would DM me with like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Like, does this sound good? I'm like, just be yourself. Just like introduce who you are. Like, I actually give my real name to the developers. I'm like, hey, I'm eBloodyCandy, but my actual name is Tony. I just want to ask, do you have time for a few questions about X, Y, whatever game that we're discussing? I want to give them that hey, like, do you have time to talk about? Like, I don't want to just throw a bunch of stuff at them. It's like, it's like, it was just funny because, like, I know that causes Mo anxiety, but it's like at the same time, it's like, here's how I approach it. Here's a cookie cutter template of like kind of what I use, but like, you just gotta do it. And it was like the composer for Jurassic Park when you reached out to him about that too.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I didn't know they used my music in the Game Boy game. Like,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I mean, and some people are busy, and we have to understand that. It's like sometimes like we reach out to somebody and they'll give us like short answers because like they're just busy. It's just like, it's not because they're assholes. It's just their like, life is busy. Like, they're in the video game industry. They got stuff to do. That industry doesn't slow down for anyone. But it's just interesting that we started like getting into that a little bit now as well too. And what's crazy is that, like, for me in a way with that stuff is I look at these people as like superheroes, right? I'm 34 years old. They're literally just another human on the planet, same as me, but like the fact that I played their game when I was like 9 years old and I loved it, I look at them like superheroes. Like whenever I talk to like Jason Austin or Alberto Gonzalez, or if I reach out to, you know, Glenn Schofield for something, it's just like, oh my god, like superhero moment. You know, it's just like, you know, it's just like, all right, like let's settle down here. Like they're just humans. Like let's reel in that starstruck a little bit. So, I'm glad that we started getting into that too, because like again, that wasn't on topic, that wasn't top of mind for us to ever do. It just honestly, it just accidentally happened because that stupid knife in Alien 3. Sadly enough, for Legs anyway, this is when episodes started becoming like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. Like this episode's gonna be long as shit. So
we have some ones that push 3 hours, and it's wild.
Yeah, like this episode's gonna be long as hell, just because like we're covering so much. Like we may want to break this into 2 parts. Just saying.
I think we're fine. I think this will be like a 2-hour episode for sure. Yeah.
All right. Mo says this every time.
Nah, just looking at the recordings, I think that's gonna happen. Because we're basically getting to the end of like our overview from like the past to that's now. Like I think this segues well into just our looking forward part. I don't think we need another break here. I think this will actually go by pretty fast. So because there are some listener questions later that also tie into this a little bit, but
that's true.
But yeah, like looking forward, like I think it's clear by now that we are perfectly happy with how we are doing it, at least. So I don't think there will be any big changes when it comes to that. We're trying to shorten them a little bit again, because like we had a few extremely long episodes, and it's not only bad for Legs because she has to put in a lot of effort to actually produce those, but it takes a toll on us as well, because talking for so long is just absolutely brutal.
Not only that too, like those episodes are the ones that usually just come out later, right? There's so much more to do with them that like they just come out a little later. And like, who wants to, like, no one has a 3-hour car ride where they want to listen to a podcast episode about Kid Icarus, right? Like 3 hours, like, I'm not saying Kid Icarus is 3 hours, but like, that was the first one I saw over there. Like, you know, no one wants to listen to episode 34, Kid Icarus, for 3 hours. And if you do, you're a masochist, and I love you for it. But, but like, I personally would love to reel our episodes back to like an hour to an hour and a half again. Kind of like what they were to start.
Yeah, it's just easier for all of us. Like, if we all lived like 5 houses apart from each other, it would have made it a lot easier. But yeah, with the scheduling and things like that, it is a little bit harder to do. So yeah, that's why like lately the episodes haven't come out every 2 weeks like you're used to. I think that's one of the big changes that happened. Like, you still get 2 episodes a month, but it's not gonna be exactly 2 weeks apart. So, but yeah, we're still making them.
Yeah, and like there is no one person to blame for that. Like I said, like Mo and I go on for like 3 hours now. Like there are times like, hey Tony, did you get that recording done? No. So like now I'm late getting into Legs, and you know, and like there's this and then there's this real life, right? Like we have a life to live. Like Legs is married and plays Smash tournaments and has to live life. Like I just a workaholic, and I have to be busy literally every second of my life, and sometimes things get overlooked when that happens, you know, and it's just life. Like we're adults, and we have to do adult things.
Adult things like playing in Melee tournaments. We actually had to stop for about 60 minutes in the middle of this episode because I was like, oh, geez, I actually got to go play in tournament, so I'll be back, guys.
Meanwhile, like, Mo and I were testing stuff in Discord, and I was laughing at YouTube videos while Mo was listening to me laugh at YouTube videos. So, I mean...
So, important adult stuff is what we're getting at.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Important adult things. But yeah, like, moving forward, like, looking forward, like, I would love to trim down our episodes. And, like, I don't want that to cost, you know, like, the funness that we had. Because, like, I'm looking at our episodes, like, Terminator 2 was a lot of fun, episode 33. Episode 34 was amazing, because that's when all the Creed content came out. And I believe that was when, around the time Legs and Petra got married as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Mega Man Dr. Wily, his revenge came out. And then, like, honestly, once we hit, like, Amazing Penguin, that was, like, for me, that was, hey, like, this is exactly how I want our podcast to be moving forward. Like, maybe not the sexualizing penguins side of things. Like, every once in a while, that's fine. But, like, just, like, the pure, like, we had a lot of comedy that was mixed in with actual organic conversation throughout that entire episode. And that's how I wanted our episodes to kind of, like, run from there on out. So, like, when you listen to Poco Neon, it very much follows a piece of that format now. Like, and you can, like, hear me, like, try and say things in Japanese, and, like, it just makes Mo just bust a gut because I am really good at saying things in Japanese.
Not that I'm
even
better
listen
at
to,
it, but
No, you're better at you're better at it than I am. You should listen to the Trip World episode and me trying to say those names. So, you know, and then, like, even, like, I even listened to the Battletoads episode with Mo and Hero, without me, you know, and, like, that flow was remarkable as well too. And honestly, Mo and Hero, like, we all talk to each other a lot in Discord and on Twitch, but, like, Mo and Hero probably don't have that, you know, voice to voice connect, you know, that Mo and I now have. And the fact that they were able to keep that flow of an episode just because, like, we keep things so organic now was absolutely amazing. So I'm actually really excited about our episodes moving forward, trimming them down, but keeping them as organic as we can. Like, if you listen to the most recent Light episode, Trip World episode 40, like, I completely changed the format of my Light episode to fit in with this new format that I want to push. So... And, like, I even asked Legs, I was like, Legs, like, I literally changed the entire cadence of a Light episode. Like, I need feedback. You know?
It really came across, too. Like, I liked it a lot. My favorite thing is I get to listen to all the episodes raw as I edit them. So I pretty much always listen to them in real time, barely ever sped up, because I want to be able to catch everything. But I actually really like the Triple episode, so I really like how things have been going lately, especially since, like, the Amazing Penguin episode. The Amazing Penguin episode was fun because it was just, like, we were constantly joking about it all week in the Discord leading up to it.
True.
And then it felt like just a perfect culmination of all that.
It's very true.
yeah, I mean, it was just brilliant improvisation out of the blue. Like that entire segment, and we said it before, that entire segment was, we had no notes on that. It was like, oh, that could tie into that. Oh, that's actually funny, so let's just keep going with it. So I really love doing that.
Look at that look that the penguin has here. I bet he's drawn those French ladies. And it just kind of just went off from there. It was awesome. Like, it was like, again, that falls into, like, this, the organic nature of everything. Like, if we would have did Amazing Penguin, like, because, like, Amazing Penguin was on our list to do.
Oh yeah.
Like, at the very get-go, at the very start of this podcast, Amazing Penguin was on the list to do. Like, this was a game I've been wanting to do for a long time. But if we would have done Amazing Penguin on, like, episode 4, it would have not have been nearly as good as it was in episode 36,
So yeah, that's like just looking at how we will like actually do episodes and things like that. But of course, there are some things we also need to do besides that. Like we never intended to do this, and we still don't want to do this to make a living out of it. I think that's very clear for sure. But we would like to expand our audience for sure. I think we have a pretty decent audience, and lately I've seen a lot of new follows on SoundCloud from like people who are not affiliated with anybody who is already listening to us. So people are finding our episodes more and more, which is really cool. But we have talked about this like with each other, but we don't really know how to handle it at all. But we would like to like do like a collaboration or an affiliation with people to just like promote ourselves a little bit. And it doesn't have to be like we have to pay somebody, more like a more natural like cooperation, I guess you would call it, like something like that. But we don't really know how to handle it. But it's something we really have to take some time to investigate how we could do that, just so more people can actually find us, I guess, and we can promote things we like as well. Like one thing that's on the top of my head is like the whole Game Boy Studio thing. Like we've been into contact with a lot of people who are making games and are affiliated with that kind of. So maybe something like that would be nice to have in the future. But it's not something we actively try and did for the past 3 years. But it's something we should definitely look into. And coming with that as well, like just have more either actual guests on mic or just off mic interviews with more people from the industry. Sadly, it's usually the same 4 studios when it comes to Game Boy games that we could contact. Like it's Bit Studios, that's Austin's studio. Bit Managers, those two names. Yeah, it's Bits Studio and Bit Manager. So Bit Managers was Gonzalez's studio. And there's 2 more that I can't... Like Rare, maybe. And another one. But outside of that, most games got made in Japan. And we can't really contact those people that well. But it would be nice to have more insights from actually people from the industry when it comes to some of these games, for sure.
Yeah, I would love to have more interviews, do more interviews, because like we've done a few, like even on mic. Like I did Squidlet with Sam and Alex, the designers and developers of the game, and I think it would just be cool to have like as we get into this crazy indie era of Game Boy, like this big boom that's happening. Like we have like there's a lot of big games coming out. Like we have Wink coming out. We have Isma's making a new game. You have the Space Bot doing publishing games for like what's that Gradius clone that's coming out?
Genesis.
The Dragonborn, and then you have Green Boy games, like they have the Shapeshifter, the Where's My Body, Shapeshifter 2 coming out. Like there's a bunch of games that, he's done alone. Like there's so many big games coming out in the indie scene for Game Boy because Game Boy Studio has made it so accessible for people to make this stuff that it would just be a really interesting, like I know Mo has done like light episodes on like upcoming Game Boy games, like new Game Boy games, but I think it'd just be interesting to like find some of these and like find people to like interview and just get the idea of like how do people approach some of this stuff, because like some of these ideas and some of these games are incredibly unique and something we probably would have never seen in the 80s and 90s at all. Like Dedius, for example, was a very, very unique game. with like 11 different endings. Like, it was an awesome game, all done by one person. Wink is a really cool platforming game right now with like an overworld like Mario 3. Like, it's a very ambitious game made by one person. Like, there's a lot of cool things coming out that we just never would have seen as our childhood, but like is available to do now. And it's like, how do you know to like push the limits of certain things on this Game Boy, where like these professionals that did this for a living or still do this for a living couldn't figure out.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, like we may have some things to say about Isma's new game in the future. And like Green Boy games, I think it's like buoy, right? Like I never know how to pronounce that word, but
Boy?
Yeah, like the thing in the water for boats.
Well, that's a buoy.
Buoy, yeah, okay. So I think it's that, or he just couldn't get Green Boy game. Like, doesn't matter. I think he's Spanish. Yeah. I might be wrong.
Yeah, he's from Spain.
Yeah, I think he's Spanish. But yeah, he's been in Gran and Heroes stream lately, so maybe we could invite him to talk about Shapeshifter 1 and 2 sometime. Like, it's definitely possible.
There's John Rue from Quest Arrest, which that game is actually super cool as well. Like, there's so many people out there now making really cool, unique content that, like, obviously we're not going to be able to hit everyone or get everyone on the podcast or get every game possible, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I think it's a really interesting scene right now that this is happening, because, like, if we look at the other systems, like the all-hailed NES, right? We look at that right now, and there's no boom happening on the NES right now. We look at the all-hail Super Nintendo. There ain't no boom happening on that dumb thing right now. But we look at the Game Boy that everyone wants to overlook and be like, oh, I remember that little guy. All of a sudden, it's getting hundreds of brand new games, like every year, it feels like.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it would be nice to, like, do something with those people and with, like, maybe Game Boy Studio and something like that. Just a collaboration that just helps us both, basically. We promote their games and their software and vice versa. They promote the podcast. Like, just go bigger, not like crazy big or anything, but it just helps us out as well. And with that, like I started is, we don't do this to make money, but we do have costs. Like we say that every week. That's where our Patreon comes in. That's where our PayPal comes in. And now our merch store, like, it's all just to pay the bills, which are happening right now, actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, like, I kind of want to redo a few things on Patreon, for sure, to make it a little bit more enticing for people to become a patron. And we do have an idea for that, actually, that me and EBC discussed. So changes like that will come. Again, nobody needs to feel obligated to do that or anything. I'm just mentioning it because it is part of making something like this. Like, you can't just walk around it. Like, costs will happen. So, and maybe we can eventually upgrade our mics or something. Like, these Blue Yetis are fine. Besides them not having any, like, noise gate or anything. So maybe one that is a little bit more professional makes it also easier for Lex. Like, don't have to filter out that much stuff like that. So, yeah, those are things that I'm thinking about a lot, but not sure how to handle them. And if anybody's listening who, like, has experience with things like this, just contact us. Like, I mean, can always help us out for sure. Like, that is really a thing we don't do well, I guess. Like,
it's a weak point for us.
Promoting things and stuff like that. It's because it's not our focus to begin with, but
no.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting, like, how the three of us work, right? Like, you do a lot of the you do a lot of the money side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you do all of the money side of things for, the podcast.
Yeah.
Legs does all of the production side of things, and I do a big dominant piece of the networking side of things, right? But like none of us really ever focus on like how do we get our like I can network all day, and like there are times like I just forget to promote the podcast. Like if you looked at my Twitch, like I didn't have our podcast on my Twitch for like a year, 2 years. Like it's just an overlook. It's just something I don't think about every day.
Yeah.
But like there are things like I would love to have some sort of like a marketing plan for us, pressing forward, like whether that is through affiliation or hopefully I like sponsorships is a big thing I've been wanting to do. I personally have never had experience gaining a sponsorship, and I don't know how to approach something like that. So it's like I would love to get sponsorships for the stream as well too, even if it's from Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah.
I will play your game for 2 hours if you want to sponsor the podcast. It's those things like that I would love for us to do, because like we have such strong suits already, and like our strengths really cater to one another, but we definitely have weaknesses that none of us can cover well.
So we're basically looking for a manager who does it for free because we don't have money. So
we don't have money yet. So and that was always one of the things too. Is just like I mentioned earlier with Mo. Like Mo and I would always talk like off mic and everything else, and being like Legs is putting a lot of time in. Like I wish we could pay Legs, and that's when the Patreon thing. Like we started getting money for the Patreon, so it's like, hey, like we should pay Legs. Like she's putting effort. Like she's taking time out of her life to do this for us. Like I want to like reward, pay, whatever it's called, to do, because and you did too, right? Like you and I were the ones that kind of brought it up with one another, but yeah, like everything that comes into like any piece of like revenue that comes into the podcast literally gets turned around and thrown right back into the podcast, whether it's bills, whether it's paying people for their time, whether it's commission stuff, like when we had Man Over Mars do stuff for us, and I know like Hero was gracious enough to help us out in that department, and Man Over Mars being an amazing guy that he is, gave us deals and helped us out in that department as well too. Like we've been gracious to have amazing friends in our immediate network and in our circle. That really, honestly, without that, like, probably wouldn't get us to where we actually are today.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, but that's a little bit more on the, I guess, serious side of things or business side of things when it comes to the podcast. Like, maybe for the listeners it's not that important, but for us it is. Sadly, I guess. Yeah. Because it's just part of it.
Adults kind of adult.
Yeah, that's what sucks about it. But yeah, that's pretty much all we can say. Looking forward to the podcast. Like, if anybody has any remarks or suggestions, again, like you can always let us know for sure. You can contact us through so many things. And yes, I'm mixing this up with our outro a little bit, so we can skip over that later because you've heard it here already.
You can just go to TIGR.com and all that information is.
Yeah, see, that outro we'll skip that this time because we've talked about everything anyways. So
big true.
So yeah, I think that about wraps it up, what we can say about it. Is there anything else you still want to add, maybe, Lex, that we haven't covered yet?
No, I pretty much covered it all. I'm really happy with the way things have been growing, and I'm really excited for the future of the podcast. I literally went into this thinking it was going to be a 1-episode test, so it's been a hell of a 3 years.
Same.
Yeah.
We're going to take another break. When we come back, we actually have a pretty loaded section for questions from Discord about the podcast in general. So yeah, when we come back, we're going to answer all of the listener questions, and even if we already answer them, we're probably not going to answer them again, so just, rewind in the episode. And just listen to it then. Stay tuned. Alright, welcome back everybody. Discord questions. We actually have a decent amount of Discord questions this time around. And of course the first question is directed right at you, Legs.
So, Sufferum wants to know, Dragonheart episode by Legs and Petra when? And the answer is, maybe next week's, maybe the 6-year anniversary. I don't even think I'm going to tell EBC and Mo. I think I'm just going to record it and release it one week when they're expecting something else to release.
That would be amazing.
So, you'll see it when you see it.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing joke for 3 years already. So.
That's true.
One day I'm going to reveal that I've had the episode recorded this week.
We're just gonna be like, all right, this episode's ready to release. Okay, done. And then we're gonna go to This Is Game Boy and just see a Dragonheart episode instead of like whatever game that we recorded. It's gonna be awesome. Next question is from Yog Ariel, and they ask, do you three, Mo, EBC, Legs, personally have something you'd like to change about the podcast, or are you satisfied with the way it is right now? I mean, we touched base on this right before break, but the TLDR basically is we would like to trim episodes back down to an hour and a half time frame. We would like to start diving or figuring out how to get into affiliations with people, partnerships with people, sponsorships with brands or people. And just a rebuild of our actual Patreon as well too, where Mo and I will talk, or at least announce more about that when that stuff is more concrete.
Yeah. Besides that, I'm happy with it, how it is.
Yeah,
right now,
I am too.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the specific things I want are things that were already sort of covered. Just like that more guests, more like one-off kind of episodes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright. So, next question's by our former guest, Kraden Hero. Is there a game you wanted to do an episode on already, but for some reason you haven't?
It would have been Amazing Penguin, but we actually covered that one now. The next one for me is honestly, sadly enough, the 2 Ren and Stimpy games.
Alright. It's actually a hard question because there are so many that would make for a good episode. I think I'm just looking forward to doing more of the Mega Man episodes. Because, I love Mega Man, so I think those are the ones that I really want to do. And maybe... You know what? No, Spirou is probably the one I really want to do, but I will try to get in contact with Alberto Gonzalez again for that one. Because I mentioned it before, Spirou is my favorite of the Belgian comics, and I really like that game. And it's often overlooked because Spirou is not that popular when it comes to those things. Like Asterix, Tintin, Lucky Luke, Smurfs are way more well known around the world at this point, and Spirou is falls behind a little bit on that. So, yeah.
For me, it's Cave Noir, but the biggest issue is the game is really, really interesting, but it would require so much research to find like anything to like really concretely talk about, and it's just such an obscure old Japanese game that finding any of that information is hell.
Which is crazy to think about because that was a Konami game.
Yeah.
You know, that's the more crazy part about it.
But there's like nothing you can possibly find on it. You search Cave Nora on the internet, I guarantee you 80% of the things you're going to find are me and my wife doing speedruns of it.
So it was like when I typed in Trip Road into
Yeah,
YouTube.
it was just you.
Yeah, it was just my dumb face for like 6 results. And I mean, like, throw the question back at Hero and just the community in general. I know Mo and I have asked like what games do that the community wants us to do, or like would like to hear about, and we've gotten a handful. Like Chavo 55, that's a phenomenal recommendation, a really good game, and a pretty obscure game as well too, like Batgun or Batman. Batgun is a really good game as well too. Mario 2 probably never gonna happen because that game is just garbage. It would be
Donkey Kong Land,
Yeah.
that series. Yeah,
It would be cool to have like a Mario, just like the 3 Mario series, kind of like what we did with Spider-Man. It would be kind of cool to have like an homage to that, because like the Mario games were big and they played a big influence with the Game Boy. As much as I don't like 2, like I have to respect it in that sense.
yeah.
The next one is actually from Legs. What is one episode that if we could record any of them, what would it be?
Momania, you guys what you mean.
No.
I want you both to play it again too.
Not gonna happen.
Nah.
I think for me, I think it's Solar Striker, honestly.
I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah. Because I like, even from episode 2, because then we had a template and kind of knew what we were trying to go for. Like Solar Striker, we didn't. It was just all stuff scrambled together and talking about it. So
Yeah.
that would be the one to redo. And now that I'm thinking about it, like, I don't know when it's gonna come out or when it's gonna arrive in my mailbox, yada yada yada, but we talked about it before. Genesis, which is a new game for Game Boy, is basically Solar Striker 2.
Yep.
So maybe it would be nice to do an episode on Genesis and then talk again or better about Solar Striker meanwhile. So it's kind of a reboot episode that way, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, reboots are pretty popular in 2021, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll jump on that bandwagon while we can. Yeah, like Soul Striker was like, we literally did have the template, like Mo said. Like, it was us copy and pasting stuff that we found articles in and literally just pasting it into a Google Doc and like hoping that one of us understood what the hell that we put into that Google Doc was. Like, it was pretty cavemanish, honestly.
If you're a patron and have access to these notes, I highly suggest going and looking at the pilot episode notes. It's literally just a wall of text.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the final question, also by Juke Ariel, is this going to be like your Game Boy challenges, aka are you gonna do an episode on every game? And no, absolutely
Every game
not.
and every accessory known to man.
It's gonna be like my Game Boy challenge, where we're just going through them, and then eventually we'll die.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be dead probably when I'm like 50-something years old, so if Mo's still alive, he'll need a new host then, and then Mo will die, and then he'll need a new host, then we'll need a new producer. Like, it just goes on. So, yeah, it'll
You can pretend we're doing all of them, but just in the order we want and at the exact rate that we're doing it.
And honestly, like, there just isn't enough time. Like, if we wanted to do every game, we don't have enough time in our lifetime right now to do that. Because there's over 1,000 Game Boy games, and we're releasing a podcast episode about 1 or 2 games a month, sometimes, if we hit one of the main games in the library, it says we just don't, like in our lifetime, we probably wouldn't even have the opportunity to talk about every game if we wanted to.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
Also-
even some games are not worth talking about
Yeah,
anyway.
some games
so-
there's just nothing to say about
like
them.
alleyway.
Yeah, yeah. For example,
There we go. There's
something
the
like
there's
that.
the alleyway episode right there. Done.
Yeah, you want the alleyway episode? The ball hits the blocks and the blocks disappear.
There you go.
There's
There's
Bowser at the end, I think.
Legs' first official podcast episode, and she did alleyway.
it out.
Yeah, for things like that, it would be. And Hero played this game recently. Like, again, combine it with something else. There's a game called Block Kusuji Game Boy, which is like a reinterpretation of that whole alleyway. What's the actual name of alleyway?
Breakout.
Breakout, yeah. So that genre. So yeah, you could make an episode about Block Kusuji, which is actually a really cool game, which we should do. And then have like a little segment dedicated to alleyway, which is literally 1 minute or something.
I mean, it's like the
but,
arcade
like-
classics too, right? Like, there's 5 arcade classics out there,
Yeah.
but like you're not going to talk about Centipede, Asteroid, Missile Command all alone, but in their one, episode. At least we're not going to,
Yeah.
because we're not focused on an arcade genre type stuff. But like we would probably do like maybe a light episode or like a full episode of all 5, arcade
Yeah.
classic games.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool history when it comes to those arcade games, but it's also not really like our thing. Like, I have no affiliation with arcade games at all. I don't even like playing them. Like,
I
so
love arcade games.
Me too.
yeah.
I used to play them on the ferry when I was a kid.
Yeah, I played them a lot in the laundromat and at convenience stores.
I had to play it on the ferry, so I'd play it for like 10 minutes, get super seasick for like an hour, and play it for another 10 minutes. It was worth it. They had Ninja Turtles.
But yeah, no, that's basically it right there. Like, even if we wanted to do every game under the sun for Game Boy, we just couldn't.
Yeah, it's just not gonna happen.
Just there's too much content to be told, and like what Leg said too, like some games are just not worth talking about at all. Like
Again, going back to what I said about like Jeremy Parrish, he started Game Boy Works / World like what 8 years ago or something like that, and he's doing them chronologically, and even some episodes are like 2 games in one, and he only talks about them for like 4 minutes or something like that. He just finished the 2nd year of Game Boy, I believe. Or maybe it's a 3rd year of Game Boy.
I think he's in 1991 now.
Yeah, I think now he's moving on to 1991, so, I mean, it's just not possible. And he's actually doing all of them, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they made Game Boy games into the 2000s.
Yes,
Just
they did.
Japan-only educational ones that are not interesting.
Yeah.
But they still exist.
They are
They
Game Boy
still
games.
exist.
So yeah. We're not doing an outro this time, so we don't have to think of that one on the fly.
Yeah, like we covered some things. Like, again, you people know where you can find us. It's on Discord
Wow,
or
you
or on
people.
Twitch.
Wow.
Yeah, you listeners.
There you go.
These are our
Call them by their
beloved
name.
listeners, Mo.
Their actual name.
Call them
yeah,
by their
yeah.
name, all right? They're chat / listeners. You people.
I want you to call out
Wow.
everyone in the Discord by name.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
you people. Man.
That wasn't even meant to be that way. But yeah. But yeah, everybody knows where they can find us by now. We're not gonna super cover it. You can just visit our website, thisisgameboy.com, to find links to all of our social media and things like that. So easy to do. You can also find the ways to support us, like Patreon, we said before, PayPal, and our merch, which I still haven't put a banner for on the website. I definitely apologize for that. But yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much where you can find all the information that you need for sure.
In our Twitch, YouTube, Twitter profiles as well too.
Everything
links.
you could ever want, really.
Yeah.
Just make it your homepage.
Yeah, literally just make it your startup page whenever you boot up Chrome. If you're using Firefox, I'll slightly forgive you. If you're using Internet Explorer, Edge, wherever it's called, just throw your computer into the river.
If you're using Netscape Navigator, message me because I have questions for you.
If you're using Opera, then there's no saving you.
Don't message me if you're using Opera.
All right. Well, now the time has come that happens every episode. What is the next episode that we're gonna do?
Yeah, I asked that before we started, but
I
we
don't
still
know.
haven't decided. So, so yeah, it's either gonna be Batman or Chalvo 55. I think.
I feel like if we do Batman, we're gonna have to do Batman, and then Return of the Joker, and then the animated series.
Well, but yeah, but that won't be like one episode, of course.
No, but we have to do it like we did Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just do Chavo. Chavo's a cool game. Chavo's
Yeah, there we go. It's gonna be Chalvo then.
yeah. Chavo 55 is the next episode. Decided on the spot.
Boom.
Welcome to how the episode ends every time. All right, well, the next time you hear from Mo and I, we'll talk about Chavo 55. Fun game. And you'll hear more about it in a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, with that, well, I hope you all liked the episode. It's going to be a little bit of a long one. And we'll talk to you soon. The next time you'll hear from Mo next time. He has a light episode coming out, sucker.
Yeah. I mean, somebody has to do it.
I did the last one. I did the game.
Yeah, so...
All right, well, ta-ta. Well, you all not going to say bye?
I was waiting for Mo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I was waiting for you.
Wow.
Wow.
That Mo doesn't want to say bye to you people. You believe this? Jesus.
Well, I'll see you guys during the Dragonheart episode.
Yeah, you all have a nice rest of your day wherever you are, and you'll hear from me soon with Kung Fu Master.
Ooh. All right, well, ta-ta.
Bye.
Later.
And then we sit here and talk about who has to start the episode.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this point forward. When you're like, is it my week? Whose week was it last week? And you're like, oh shit, I guess I have to do something. And if it's Mo's week, he has to do it 3 times before it works.
Yeah.